Now that I've finished the floor plan for my new house, I want to create an electrical plan. I'll start here by going to the Saved Plan View control and select one of the saved plan views the Chief Architect has provided. I'll click on Electrical Plan. That will do two things. It changed the layer set to the electrical layer set, which turns off layers that are not important for the electrical plan, and it turns on all of the layers that are relevant for my electrical plan. The other thing it does is it activates the electrical annotations, so that when I create text and dimensions, all of this information is on appropriate layers specific to my electrical plan. Placing electrical objects is easy. We'll go up to the Electrical Tools parent tool and select the 110 outlet. Here I'm going to place one outlet here on this wall and then one outlet right here above this cabinet. Then we'll take a camera view. As you can see, the outlet that I've placed on the wall is set at a height relative to the floor, but the one that I placed above the cabinet is placed at a height relative to the top of the cabinet. This placement is set up in your defaults. If we go here to the default settings, go down to electrical defaults, here you can see all of the defaults relative to all of the electrical tools, the lighting tools, the outlet tools, switches, and so forth. For the 110 outlet, if I select this, you can see here the settings for how this object will be placed, and you can change them. If it's placed on a wall, it'll be placed 11.5 inches above the floor. If it's placed above a base cabinet, it'll be placed 7 inches to the center line of the object, above the top of the cabinet. Now we'll go back to the plan view. Now here in the kitchen, we'll be required to place GFCI outlets. You can find all of the additional electrical objects in your library browser. Under the Chief Architect Core Catalogs, you have a Mechanical, Electrical, and Plumbing folder. Under that folder, you'll find an electrical subfolder, and then subfolders for all of the different types of objects to place. We'll go here to the outlets and the surface mounted. These are the ones that would be placed on a wall. Under the 110 subfolder, we'll select the GFCI, just click above a cabinet to place one. There's many other objects in that electrical folder, including all of your special symbols, special switches, ceiling, floor, and surface mounted electrical symbols. Another way to place all of your outlets, I'll go ahead and delete these, is to go up to your electrical tools, and one of your child tools is the Auto Place Outlets. When I click on Auto Place Outlets, I'll click here in the kitchen. That will place all of the 110 outlets. It also recognizes where the kitchen sink is and place lights above it. And you'll notice that here in the kitchen, it has placed GFCI outlets in the entire kitchen, but in the dining room, where there is no sink, it's placed regular outlets. Once you've automatically placed your outlets, you can move them by selecting them and simply moving them into place. You can also use all of the edit tools in your edit toolbar at the bottom, for instance, to copy and paste. I'll copy this outlet and move it over. For the auto place outlets, the same is true for a bathroom. When you click in a bathroom, it automatically places a vanity light above the sink and the GFCI outlet above the vanity cabinet. In all other rooms, it'll place regular outlets. Here in the laundry room, I have a sink, so I'll need to place GFCI outlets here in the laundry room individually to make sure that I have GFCI above the counter and a 220 outlet for my dryer. Out of that library browser, we'll go to the 220 volt folder, select my 220 volt, place one behind the dryer. I'll also need to place one behind where the oven's going to go in the kitchen. Then we'll place some GFCI outlets along these walls here in the laundry room. One thing that I want to do here is turn on my stairs. I'll go to the Active Layer Display options, select the stairs and ramps, and turn them on. This outlet is not placed in a proper place, so I can simply move it. The tools that are used under the Electrical Tool Parent tool are simply Place Object tools, and you can create your own. For instance, I'll take a camera view of this sink wall. Now if I want to place an outlet on this wall below the window but above the counter, I'm going to need to use a horizontal outlet instead of the vertical one. Now there are several places in this kitchen where I may need to use a horizontal outlet, so I can create a tool specifically to place that object. To do that, you can go up to the Tools drop-down menu, to Toolbars and Hotkeys and customize toolbars. Under the Tools panel, I'll type in Place Library Object. As soon as I see the tool I need, I can just click on it and drag it right up to the toolbar to place a new tool. I'll go ahead and close the Toolbar Customization dialog. Then I'll click once on this tool to open the Library Object Specification. Here I can go to the library, into my core catalogs, under the Electrical and Mechanical and the Electrical subfolders. I'll go to Outlets and Surface Mounted. Here I'll go to the 110 folder and I can find my duplex horizontal. I'll go ahead and click OK, and for the tool button icon I have a selection. I'll select Automatic Number 2, which is a 3D view of the horizontal outlet, and then I'll click OK. Now when I select that tool, I can click here to place a horizontal outlet. Placing light fixtures is just as easy. If we go back to the Electrical Tools parent tool and select the Light tool, this tool will place lights differently depending on where you place them in your plan. I'm going to place one here on the ceiling, I'll place one here on the interior wall, and then I'll place one here on the exterior wall. Then we'll take camera views of each. When I use the same tool to place a light on the wall and the ceiling, it's placing two different light symbols. On the wall, it's placing this cylinder sconce. On the ceiling, it's placing a recessed downlight. If we take a look at the exterior light, by default, it's placed this cage lantern sconce. Again, you can change those defaults for the types of fixtures you want to use by going to your default settings, to Electrical, and here you can see we have different settings for a light placed on the ceiling, a light placed outdoor, a light placed on a wall, and the light placed on the outdoor wall. I'll go ahead and delete this light. And here I'm going to turn on my soffits. I've created coffered ceilings in the kitchen and the dining room. So we'll go to the soffits layer and turn that on here in our active layer display options. I've created two different types of soffits. The one in the kitchen that you see in blue is a polyline solid. The one here in the dining room, I've actually used the Cabinet Tools soffit tool. These two different soffits will act differently when you place light fixtures. I'll go ahead and take a camera view so that we can see both of these soffits. For clarity, I'll go to my Render Techniques and I'll select the Vector View Render Technique. Here in the camera view you can see that I've painted the soffit that's created with a polyline solid with a gray color. That way we can see more clearly the soffits in the kitchen and here in the dining room. Now I'll place a couple of lights. I'll go to my Electrical Tools, select my Light tool, place one here on the soffit that I used the soffit tool for, and then place another one here on the soffit that I've used the polyline solid. When I try to place it here, Chief is not allowing me to place it. I can place one on the ceiling above this soffit, but it won't allow me to place one on the polyline solid. If I go to my electrical floor plan and then place a light here where the polyline solid is, you can see that it's placed it, but if I go to the camera view, you're not able to see it. That's because Chief is not recognizing this as a ceiling surface like it does the soffit. So what I'll need to do is where I've placed it in the floor plan, I'll need to select it, open it up. I know that my soffits are 24 inches high, so I'll need to offset this light fixture from the ceiling 24 inches. Now when I go to that camera view, you can see the light fixtures in both of the different soffit types. Now let's go back to the floor plan view and place a couple of pendant lights. We'll go back here to the library browser, into the Chief Architect core catalogs. Under Architectural, we'll go to Lighting. In the Lighting folder, there's a Pendant Lights subfolder. I'll go ahead and place a blown glass pendant light, and then I'll place a different one. We'll use the Industrial, and I'll place this one. I'll take an elevation view at an angle so that we can see our pendant lights. As you can see, the pendant lights are placed right up at the ceiling. With the blown glass fixture, if I select the fixture, I can use the edit handle at the bottom to drag it down and put it closer to the surface of my island. However, some light fixtures, if I select the fixture and use that edit handle to drag it down, it will elongate the entire fixture, including the globe. You'll just need to be aware that some of the fixtures will behave differently than others. I'll go ahead and undo both of these, delete this one, and we'll go back to the floor plan view and copy this light fixture. Placing light fixtures underneath of cabinets is also easy. If I close the pendant folders here in the library browser and we go to the cabinet folder under lighting, you'll notice here that we have different lights for underneath the wall cabinets. I'll select the tube light and place it right here underneath this wall cabinet. I'll go ahead and select it and rotate it, and then we'll take a camera view. As you can see, it's recognized where the bottom of the cabinet is, and it has placed that light fixture directly below it. I'll double-click on the light fixture to open the fixture specification dialog. And you can see here that the offset from the ceiling is set at 0, but it's seeing the bottom of the cabinet as its ceiling to be placed at. Once you've placed any light fixture, you can edit the light data, including the amount of light, the type of light, and the color of light that this fixture generates. You can learn more about lighting and lighting effects in rendering by going to the Chief Architect website to the online training videos and do a search for lighting or rendering. The last thing I want to do here is create some switches and connections between the lighting and the switches. So I've placed additional lights in the kitchen. Now we're going to place some switches. We'll go back to our Electrical Tools parent tool and select the Switch tool. Again, there are additional switches and switch types in the library browser. But for now, we'll just use the single pole switch. I'm going to place 2 switches on this wall, and then I'll place 2 switches on this wall. Now I'll use the Connect Electrical tool and simply click and drag a line between the switch and the first light. I'll go ahead and connect these 3 lights. And when you connect the electrical objects, Chief will create an electrical connection spline. You can adjust the spline by selecting the diamond edit handle and pulling it down to adjust the arc to look the way you want. Now I'll connect the last light to another switch here, and watch what happens to the switch itself. Automatically, it has changed to a 3-pole switch, this one and this one. I'll connect these other lights to a switch and then make some adjustments to the connections. So it's easy to create an electrical plan by placing electrical fixtures and switches using your Electrical Tools parent tool and objects out of the library browser.